Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Regis Prograis has been trying to find a way to get into a fight. Regis Prograis is one of the best fighters at 140, could go up to 147, but definitely at 140. He's a force to be reckoned with, but the Louisiana native who had to relocate to Houston as a result of Hurricane Katrina, the Rougarou, the Creole-born Regis Prograis, man, he just can't figure it out. So it's unfortunate to see him in this situation. It's at a point now to where he's even begging to get a fight with Ryan Garcia. And in my opinion, he needs to stay away from them damn Garcias because obviously he didn't learn his lesson when Mikey Garcia stood him up. Mikey Garcia did him like Floyd Mayweather did Amir Khan. Had him out there, hoping and crossing his fingers, crossing his legs, crossing his damn toes, cross the T's, cross the I's, hot cross buns. Call the Red Cross, you know what I mean? Bake a croissant. That man was just hoping he would get that Mikey Garcia fight. It's going to be a big money fight against a big name. Mikey Garcia shifted gears, left Rougarou in the cold. But a lot of people are wondering, what's his story? Even me. I'm like, man, why the hell can't this man get a fight? Okay, he is an amazing fighter. He's an entertaining fighter. Rougarou should be fighting. He should be fighting 3 times a year. Don't know what his story is. But he take a look at when he fought Josh Taylor. They had the whole Super 6 or whatever. He got in there, man. Leading up to that, he was very active. I think that tournament did him a lot of good, man, because it kept him active. Got in there with Josh Taylor and, unfortunately he lost. Decision. But he put up a good fight. It was very close. He's a very good fighter. But he lost. But after that, he, has never really seemed to be able to kind of catch himself and keep his career going. Now, I kind of timeline some things here for you. So if you look in 2016, matter of fact, I want to make sure I'm right when I tell you this. I don't just want to be here talking out my backside, right? When did they squab, right? Okay, it's 2019. So you go back to 2016, okay? In 2016, he had 2 fights, okay? 2 to 3 fights a year is good. But with a guy like him, especially back then, he should have been fighting more. But it is what it is. 2 fights in 2016, 2017. He gets himself 2 fights with Frito Buelvas and Joel Diaz Jr., okay? Very good fight. He clipped Joel Diaz Jr. TKO'd him. Now, those you don't know who the hell Jojo Diaz is, well, then y'all been sleeping underneath a rock, okay? Jojo Diaz is no joke, but he got in there with the Rougarou and got them hands put on him. Jojo Diaz is the one to give Tank a run for his money. And Jojo Diaz got in there and he clipped Fortuna. So Jojo Diaz is a good fighter, okay? But you get beyond 2017, then this is when the whole Super 6 starts to bubble up. Julius Ndongo, TKO's him. Juan Jose Velasco, TKO's him. Terry Flanagan, Curl Relic. This is the 2018, 2019. And then he gets in there with Josh Taylor in 2019. So if you look from 2016 to 2019, it's 2 fights in 16, 2 in 17, 3 in 18, because it's bubbling up for the whole Super 16, 2 in 19. After the Super 6, he just fell off. Now, when you look at this, if you're trying to figure out, why was he so active from 2016 to 2019? And since then, his activity level has drastically decreased. Now, I don't want to hear anyone talking about, Charlo fights once a year. Charlo, don't even put these guys in the same league, man. Charlo, those guys are making real money, and they have titles, okay? Rougarou needs to be out here fighting. He's not making money like those guys. Now, I will tell you, Rougarou had to go and change promoters a couple times. He was with Lou DiBella. After everything happened with the Super 6, dropped Lou DiBella, got with Pro Bellum. Now his whole thing with getting with them, with Richard Schaefer, who used to work with Golden Boy, but then Golden Boy had the lawsuit, settled $50 million out of court. Richard Schaefer had to wait a couple years before he could start promoting boxing again. After that, the time in that clause expired, he started promoting fighters. Signed Badu Jack, signed Regis Prograis, and he signed somebody else. But anyway, he signed a couple big name fighters. But when Regis Prograis signed with Probellum, he felt like that was a good move because they have good connections with PBC, Eddie Hearn, with everyone. Richard Schaefer wants to work with everyone. And he felt that he'd be able to fight, on an international scale and fight, 2, 3, 4 times a year. But that's not what happened when he was underneath Richard Schaefer. So then he gets the opportunity, COVID hitting, boom, he lands on Jake Paul Ben Askren undercard. He fights Ivan Redkach, okay? So when he gets in there and fights Redkach, that's in 2021. He clips Redkach, knocked his ass out, but it was this big set of drama where Redkach claimed he was unable to continue due to an accidental foul. When they looked, it was a damn body shot. And then they changed it to a TKO win for Prograis, which was good to see. But after the Redkach fight, and that fight was on Triller, so he happened to get an opportunity to fight on Triller, beat a co-main, and he got paid a lot of money, is my understanding. But ever since the Redkach fight, he's not with Probellum. He's no longer fighting on Triller. He's out here, and I couldn't find out if he's still on Probellum or what he's doing, but he just seems to be almost like an independently promoting himself and marketing himself. And if he does have a team behind him, he needs to get a new team because it's not working. So now here it is. He come into 2022. I guess there was a fight out there in Dubai where he went out there and fought some guy, and in the second round got him out of there, right? But he's just not staying active. And the Redkach had a name, but Redkach, we all know Redkach, something's wrong with him. But for a guy like Regis Prograis, he's just not getting the fights he wants. And he really isn't active enough. He was lucky to get that Redkach fight on Triller. Like, he's lucky they gave him the call. I don't even know how he ended up getting that call, but he's lucky he got it. And then to see him come out here just scraping and get some fight out there in Dubai against Tyrone McKenna, which was a joke. But Regis Prograis, man, needs to figure out what he's going to do next. You're talking about a guy who was an amateur, had 87 wins and 7 losses. Him today, currently as a professional, is 32 years old, 27 wins, 23 by knockout, and 1 loss to Josh Taylor. He has an impeccable record, and he can fight, and he has heavy hands, fast and heavy hands. But what is he supposed to do? I'm going to tell you what, right? I understand these boxers, especially nowadays, everybody wants the big money. They all want it. And I understand they get themselves in these negotiations and they're optimistic that something's going to shake out. They're going to land a big fight or fight against a big name. Well, that hurts them when it doesn't happen. But they need to take a note out of Austin Trout's book. Okay? Everyone, to me, boxers, I said this before some crap happened out here with this YouTube stuff, but why aren't people paying attention to what Austin Trout did? And Austin Trout fought Miguel Cotto. He beat Miguel Cotto, okay? Then he came, Austin Trout was fighting all the time. Canelo, Charlos, win or lose, that man was fighting all the time. So when these guys are sitting around trying to fight once a year to make 1 or 2 million, Austin Trout was fighting like, man, 3, 4 times a year for a couple years straight. And then he was making more than $2 million over them 3, 4 fights. And he stacked up his dough. And then he went overseas and fought something for some huge money. Austin Trout is no fool, but he knew to stay active. You know what? It may not be the money I want, but I'm not passing up on that just to sit and may not get anything for the rest of the year. And that's where I made a comment about Javier Fortuna and Ryan Garcia. Now that's an extreme case of just taking the money. Well, Ryan Garcia got $2 million, Javier Fortuna got $100,000. That's extreme, but it is what it is. But for guys like Prograis, pay attention to Austin Trout. Austin Trout didn't miss a beat. Now, the thing I will say is this: is Austin Trout, he was a threat. He was a threat, but then he kind of, it was, the fear factor had disappeared. It kind of dissipated. Okay, so people had no problem fighting him because he was just really a really good boxer, wasn't a hard hitter. And if you touched Austin Trout, you could hurt him. But if you couldn't, he would outbox you. But people knew he was it wasn't that much of a threat as far as the punch. So they get into it with him. Now, the thing with Regis Prograis, most people aren't going to want to fight him. So he may not get those opportunities like Austin Trout. Plus, Regis Prograis, man, ever since the Josh Taylor fight, he hasn't been able to recover, get a fight. Hell, he was talking about fighting Mikey Garcia. Him and Teofimo Lopez were sizing each other up. He kind of played himself with promoters because he's with DeBella. He bought out his contract on DeBella to try to go out there and do it on his own. He figured Eddie Hearn would snatch him up. He figured Al Heyman would snatch him up. He figured Top Rank would snatch him up. Because 140 to 147 pounds, that's where a lot of belts were. Top Rank had the 140-pound division lock, and PBC had a 147-pound division lock. So you would almost expect him to go one of those routes. Well, anyway, it didn't work out because he was trying to do it his way. Now he's here just existing. So now he was sizing up Teofimo Lopez. That didn't work out. He was talking about fighting Adrian Broner. That didn't work out. Now he's here basically saying he wants to fight Ryan Garcia. I'm available. Listen, we know Oscar De La Hoya is not putting Ryan Garcia in the ring with no damn Regis Prograis. But I will say this. If Ryan Garcia doesn't want to come down to 135 and he wants to take another fight against a southpaw that's a real threat, he needs to fight Regis Prograis. And if he can clip him, which I doubt it, okay? But if he does, let me tell you, man, he just made a case for when it comes to this A-side, B-side crap, all that goes out the window because Tank hasn't beat anyone like a Regis Prograis. I don't care what you say. Who on Tank's record is anywhere near Regis Prograis? See, you can't come up with a name, all right? Now, I'm not saying Tank cherry-picked. What I'm saying is his team is putting him in the right fights to get him the most money with the least amount of risk. They're very smart. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. I've said in a couple of videos, I'm not going to get into it. Leonard Ellerbe and Floyd Mayweather are all about Tank and their fighters not having to go through make the same mistakes. They want them to avoid those pitfalls that Floyd made. At the end of the day, the belts don't mean anything to them. What matters to them is getting paid. And that's what they're about. So if they can circumvent the system and not go in there and get into these super difficult fights, trying to become undisputed and just keep fighting top contenders, but low risk type fights and make 10, 15 million. Well, that's what they're going to do. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't, because I kind of agree. You can't feed belts to your kids. But some people are all about legacy. But for Regis Prograis, if Ryan Garcia could clip him, and Ryan Garcia has an argument for A-side, in my opinion. And if he does that, talk about the buzz that would be going on in the boxing world. Ryan Garcia would leapfrog everybody, except for probably Tank. But he definitely leapfrogging Devin Haney. Nobody has a win on their record of someone of the stature of Regis Prograis. Now, Kambosos has probably a big win on his name, on his record, with Teofimo. Okay, and then Teofimo has a big name on his record with Loma. But outside of that, who in those divisions have big name like that on their record? You see? Yeah, nobody. So So going forward, Ryan Garcia and Regis Prograis, that fight can make a lot of sense. But then again, I don't think that they'll make that fight. So what's he gonna do? I mean, Triller, they've had serious issues. Okay, so Regis Prograis can't go back and fight on Triller. So I'm not sure what he's going to do. I'm not sure what his options are. I can sit here and talk about all the fighters at 140. I know he's not going out at 135. But it doesn't matter if nobody wants to fight him. So I don't know who his team is, but he needs to get the right team. Not sure why he just doesn't sign with Al Haymon. Everybody else signs with Al Haymon. Look, this isn't a race for the swift. It's for those that can endure. Everyone who went over to Eddie Hearn's turned his back on all of them. Okay? Now, they got in, they made their money. That's cool, but they need to, figure it out. But at the same time, Al Haymon and those guys, they don't want nothing to do with Eddie Hearn. So if you're coming off of Eddie Hearn's team, they may not want to mess with you. So Regis Prograis is in a bad spot. All that talent, man, and I keep saying, he's gonna end up like a Boo Andre, man. And what I mean by that is all that talent but can't get the right fights. And it's a little bit of poor decision making on their part, but then a whole lot of just, politics and stuff to preclude them from getting the fights that they really deserve. But some of it's on them, it's not. I say it's like 80% on the boxing politics and 20% on these guys' poor decision making. Same thing for Boo Andre. But when it comes to this guy Prograis, man, sad to see he's gonna be going on 33 years old, one fight a year. He needs to get back to that 2-3 fights a year. I know he has a son. I'm not sure if he has any other kids, but I don't think the fight in 2020, 21, 2020, 2022, I don't think that was by his choice. If you timeline it, that's around the time when he left Lou DiBella, hooked up with Probellum, got involved with Triller, and who knows what he's doing now. Okay, he needs to figure it out. Plus, he said something that probably turned some promoters off when he was telling Eddie Hearn needs to secure an island, a private island, so he can go fight on a private island, just how Dana White was securing a private island to host MMA, the UFC fights. So if you make a comment like that, whether you're serious or not, that could turn people off from even wanting to promote you or deal with you, because Regis Prograis has every right to feel that he's a top 140 pounder. But he's in no position to come asking for these Pacquiao type favors, De La Hoya type favors, Floyd Mayweather type favors, Canelo type favors. I don't even joke like that because people get turned off. Okay? But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and leave it as that with him. He's trying to get in there with Ryan Garcia. He's pissed off that Teofimo Lopez is jumping up and getting a fight at 140. He's frustrated seeing how Tank was able to come up and get Barrios. He's frustrated to see everything that's going on at 140 pounds. All these discussions about fights being made. And he's sitting here like, well, what the hell? What about me? Regis Prograis is ranked very high, all the organizations. But, he may have to jump up to 147. How nice would that be to see him get up there and fight Boots Ennis? Because Boots Ennis is the mandatory to Spence, Crawford. Boots Ennis should fight Stanionis, in my opinion. But who knows if that will happen. I think Stanionis was signed with Probellum as well. But Regis Prograis, that may be the fight to make. Going up there and fight Boots Ennis. And you don't have to win that fight, but make it competitive. Split decision win for Boots or whatever. People are that's going to put him where he wants to be. But then again, like I said, these guys just want a whole lot of money for a little bit of risk. He don't want to mess with Boots Ennis. Boots Ennis is on a whole nother level. But leave your comments below. Let me know what you think, man. I personally think he needs a new team. It just really frustrating with me. It's one thing if these guys really grinded it out, 7-8 fights a year, made millions of dollars. I'm talking about, 20, 30 million. And now they end up in a situation where they fight twice a year and they're going into retirement, They have a plan. I don't think that's the case with him. I would still expect to see him fighting, at least twice a year. But who knows? He probably has some things going on outside the ring. Some really great affairs like Deontay Wilder, where Deontay Wilder says he makes more money outside the ring now. Maybe Ruguru has things going on outside the ring to where he wants to fight because he still loves it, but it's not because he needs to. So once a year is just fine with him. I don't know that. I wasn't able to unearth any information on him and his business affairs outside the ring. All I know is he seems to be struggling for a fight, pissed off, almost begging Ryan Garcia for a fight now. And anyone with a name, he's like, hey, look at me, I'm over here. And I think people hear him, but no one's really paying him any attention. And it sucks because he's an amazing talent. But we'll see what happens. The year's not over. Hopefully he'll be back in the ring, not fighting in Dubai, but somewhere here where we get a little bit of visibility on that fight and get his name back in the mix. Because right now, nobody really wants to mess with this guy. And I don't know if because of his situation with his promoter or what it is, but they just don't want to mess with him. I think it's because they know he will whip a lot of people's butts. And that's probably why they don't want to put their fighters in with him, because they know he's a problem. But anyway, you leave your comments below and let me know your two cents. What do you think? But I think he's a great fighter. But I think that he's running out of time, man. He's 33, 34. I mean, I get it. You look at guys like Gennady still fighting, Ortiz 43 still fighting. Some people say he's 76 or however old he is. You know, it is what it is. But when you're like this, you should be getting your fights in and not trying to hang around too much longer. But anyway, leave your comments below. Let me know your 2 cents. Appreciate the support. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Shout out to the veterans, and I'm in the breeze.